Education, Laurie Kilmartin.
Okay. You changed the time at the last second. I was all cozy in my big red chair watching 30 Rocks. And then you're like, hey, I can go at the original time, which is in 6 minutes from now.
Well, who knew the 405 would be quite as open as it was? Because I had to drive down to Culver City and then drive back up. I drove down to go to the Ripped Bodice to grab a pile of romance novels and a couple of cowboy books for my great aunt.
Oh.
And
is that the Armenian aunt?
Yeah, my Alice Cation. She's 93.
She likes sex books.
She likes a cowboy book. She likes a strong cowboy, but modern.
Sure.
Modern cowboy romance books. I was like, we can call them whatever you like, Aunt Alice. I don't care.
How is the Rip Bodice doing? Bookstores, of course, are struggling right now.
Yeah, so the Ripped, I saved like $20 or $15 by going down there. And then I spent that $15-20 on several more books. I was the only person in the bookstore, and I said, I'm glad that they were there. And they said that they're doing okay. They're just, they're doing what everybody's doing. They're kind of treading water, but they said that it's working okay.
All right.
Which is good because they had a stage.
Yeah.
Aaron Judge was running that show out of there.
Oh, very fun shows. Great audiences. Like she would get 40 people in a fucking bookstore in Culver City,
Yeah.
Great.
And it had a really nice setup for stage and everything too, which is cool.
They always had a cookie or a treat for the comedian, which everyone should have a treat for the comics.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. We did a real nice show the other night, that New York City show.
Panic Attacking?
Yeah, Panic Attacking with Andrew and Steven Rogers.
Yeah.
And Andrew, I've spaced his last name. Sorry, man. Steven Rogers I know because he also opens for Brian Regan, or used to.
Oh, cool. Right on. That was surprisingly fun.
Yeah. Yeah, they did a nice job. And it was goofy. And your new stuff is working. I tried my one new line.
Yeah, what was your one new line?
Since I have 6 months, I'm like, well, why don't you just go back and tighten everything up again and try to find more punchlines. It's the gender bit. I think it's the Peter Tingle sex bit.
Mm-hmm.
About sexuality, not gender. And then I just had one new line in it that didn't work very well. So I tried it again today, and it worked, as you can imagine, slightly better. As is the nature of stand-up comedy. But it was nice. There were like 65 people at my Sunday show today.
Oh my God. How are you feeling? You had such a fixed goal for so many months. And now you don't.
And then Andy was like, well, you should just write separate set lists and work. And I was like, yeah, that's far too sane for how depressed I am right now. And so today I was like, okay, so write a set list and work on that set list. And then instead I invited a lot of people to do guest sets, and then just did my favorite 35-40 that I wanted to do. I worked on the two of the older. I worked on the Sky Club bit and the.
Oh yeah.
And remember that old.
I love that one.
Yeah, that and the pushing the old man.
Yeah, in the store.
In the store, I worked on those two.
I love aggro Jackie in your act. That's my favorite Jackie.
Yes, it's
yelling at them. Yeah,
sure. It was nice though. Guy Branum was really funny. He did a guest set today, and I told him he could come back next week because he was like, well, I could go on, and I was like, yeah, you can do another 10 next week if you want.
Right.
Wrap it up. So that's where. And then it was Madison Shepard, Comic of the Week. Taya Lux, Comic of the Week.
Yeah, who was this? Oh, Taya. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yep. And then Ashley Gutermuth, and she's a New York comic. she was telling me about the Stress Factory. She lives in Jersey.
Oh.
And Vinny, I guess, has a tent.
Oh.
And he's doing COVID shows. And I was like, shows where you get COVID? What is he doing? And she was like,
is it just a cover, or it doesn't have sides, does it? It can't. It's got to be.
It better be open. She said he's got heaters and stuff. So, but he's doing full shows.
I mean, okay.
She said Jim Brewer's doing a lot of sets.
Yeah, I canceled my live shows last weekend. The Thanksgiving.
I was relieved. Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I was as relieved when your shit canceled, quite frankly, because I kept looking at Wisconsin, and it was, in terms of like COVID colors, it was the darkest possible red, and I was like, how are you going to be safe on a plane out there?
Really running in between droplets. It'd be like trying to go out in the rain and not get wet without an umbrella.
Right. I wasn't too worried about the shows, but the travel started to really stress me out. Like, obviously I wasn't going to fly, so I'm going to drive 8 hours, 7 hours, whatever. And then I'm like, I'm stopping. I'm in gas stations. I'm inside the AM PM getting coffee with people who are also traveling, which means, first of all, I'm traveling. Of course, it doesn't, I'm smart. It doesn't matter. But these dum-dums traveling, who knows where the fuck they've been?
Right.
They're already making a terrible decision. They're not like me going to a comedy show. All right. They're going to their families, like fucking assholes. And same with the plane. Did you see that graphic, that GIF of yellow planes flying all over the United States on Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
I kept going, I would watch one of the planes leaving Florida and then somehow landing in the Bay Area, and I'm like, they're gonna drive right to my fucking hotel and stay with me. I'm gonna bump into some people on this trip inadvertently, and even though I got a cooler and I was gonna do sandwiches and just eat out of my car, at some point I'm like, oh, I'll fucking go into Jersey Mike's, and that's when I get it, right?
Right.
That weekend, I'm just saying, that weekend, all the amateurs are traveling. They're all out, right?
Right. You might as well drive on New Year's Eve. It's it's terrible. But I did look up, I saw that GIF and I thought, how many people are traveling? And it was literally I guess last year's same dates, 2.5 million people flew.
Mm-hmm.
This year, 1.2 million. So a lot less, but that's still 1.2 million too many.
Right.
So we canceled our outdoor, like, these are people that we have that are sort of in our pod, right? But we were all coming from different, like Andy's cousin and his husband were coming from San Francisco. We were coming from LA, and then our nephew and his girlfriend are coming from Bakersfield. That's the real problem, because he sells he works in cell phone sales. This kid, very nice young man, Thomas.
So he's like at a Verizon store and people are coming in.
Yeah, people, too many people. And I was like, yeah, he's the weak link.
Right.
The rest of us all work from home, and but we all canceled. And so we didn't go anywhere on Thursday. We stayed home. But then on Friday, we did our normal once a week drive up to Andy's mom's.
Yeah.
And be in the backyard kind of thing. And we stopped at an AM PM. And
those are my favorites. I love whatever the
and I got coffee because I wanted whatever. But there were too many people. I left. I was really? It was crawling with humanity. And I was like, no. It's not happening. So,
I mean, the shows, I thought if I lived in the Bay Area, I would drive to both of these shows and then go home to my home and my food, and that would be fine. So I would, although, they were both at wineries. So, there's a little worry of people getting kind of not necessarily hammered, but a little just less strict with themselves, right? They're a little buzzed.
Yeah, you loosen up.
I remember, like, usually I don't hate the audience, right? Like even when they're bad, I'm like, there's some good people in here, whatever. But I remember this one time I was like 6 months pregnant and I flew to Alaska from New York to do Chilkoot Charlie's.
Coots.
And right. And so this is 2006. So people are smoking in the club, and I'm visibly pregnant, right?
Right.
Before I even mention it, I'm pregnant. And this guy just kept smoking during my set, like, and aiming it at me. And I just remember being, you motherfucker, like I endangered my life and this fetus's life to come do shows. So I'm already done, but could you just not smoke for like 45 minutes while I'm right here? Couldn't you? And I remember being really angry, and it was hard to get through my set because I didn't want to. I joked with the guy about it, but then he kept doing it and no one did anything. No one
Nope.
cared. So I was like, I just have to, kind of act like
I've chosen to have this child. If I wanted to not have this child, then it'd be fine. But yeah,
right. But
you were-
I just thought if I'm on stage and there's people, 6 to 8 feet away from me and they're not wearing a mask, I just don't want to go through all those angry emotions. Like if I'm going to be mad at you, it's because you heckled me, and then I'll handle it.
right.
I don't want to fucking be a police officer on stage. I want to get lost in my set and lost in the audio in the show, not have to be monitoring people. And again, this weekend of all weekends, it seems like California, everyone's so contagious right now. Like one of these articles I read is like, you have much higher odds of getting COVID doing the things you've been doing over the past 6 months where you haven't got COVID, just because the amount of contagious people, humming around the grocery store, etc.
We went to Target this morning at 7 a.m. to get milk and Christmas lights because it opened up at 7. We were one of 10 people in this Target. It was awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna go late tonight to a grocery shop. The pool. Now I'm really. Before I wasn't that mad at people that were taking chances, but now it's cutting into my swimming. Okay.
They close the pool
Go
again.
ahead and take stand-up comedy from me and possibly my job, but stay the fuck away from swimming. Now, we used to be that it could be 2 people in a lane and you swam on opposite sides of the lane, and you started and rested on opposite sides of the pool. So in theory, you're never more than 6 feet, to close to anybody, right? So now it's 1 person per lane. So the lines are going to be around the block to get in the fucking pool, and they're going to have a time limit, Jackie.
Right. How long do you swim? I can't even. An hour?
An hour and 10, an hour and 5, depending on what workout is. And now I'm going to have to shove it all into 45 minutes.
My condolences for your loss.
Thank
but the
you.
thing is I can't even picture, like, how wide are you must know exactly. So do you open your eyes underwater? Let's talk about this. What? How do you not bump into the person?
Eyes are open. No one swims with their eyes closed.
I do. I do. I never swim. But when I do, I swim with my eyes closed because I have an unsubstantiated theory that water will get into my brain through my eyes and then my head will explode.
It's unsubstantiated because that's not the way your body works. That's why it's unsubstantiated. So stop it.
Well,
put on a pair of goggles. You're not a swimmer. That's fine. I'm just saying, like, it's gonna really start sucking from tomorrow on.
Right. And so like I had to get out of this house the other day, and so I just got in the car and drove around.
Yeah.
And I don't know what day it was, but it was the day before they shut down the outdoor dining again.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know that it was the day before they shut down the outdoor dining. And essentially I went to a coffee shop over in Maria Bamford's neighborhood, and she met me there, and I was like, well, we'll both get coffees and then we'll stand 6 feet away from each other and have a chat.
Yeah.
And but their back patio was open for the last day. And so we sat 8 feet away from each other, and she shouted some of her book at me. And because she's writing, she's writing a new book, and
Yes.
yeah,
What's it about? Is it a memoir?
yeah, it's one of those essay ones.
Yeah. Okay.
And so what she was talking about, how because with stand up you get feedback, even if it's Zoom feedback, you get feedback.
Right.
And I was like, well, just come on my Zoom or anyone's Zoom show and read 10 minutes of what you've written, because you're writing essays. How long will it take? And she read me one, and it was hilarious.
Mhm.
And she felt better about the whole thing because she got to do a thing, right?
Yeah.
Like we all do. And yeah. And yeah, today's when you get on stage and you're just like, and you didn't write a set list, and you're doing 30 or 35 minutes, and you're like, I'm just gonna do my favorite 35 minutes right now. And if I can think of something that I don't want to do, I'll maybe do that. So,
Sometimes it's supposed to be fun too,
right.
Stand for you. Like if you're working on new stuff and it's not clicking, it is agony, and you're like, oh, I gotta get this right, because you maybe have one or two lines that work and you just need to fill it out a little bit. But when it's not clicking, it's really not fun. And it's depressing, and especially if you did it yesterday, and in between yesterday and today you didn't think about it or think of anything new. You're like, oh, that fucking thing again. All right, well, maybe I'll think of something on stage. But it's not fun, and it's it's supposed to be fun. So yeah,
supposed to be fun, which is why that's why I was sitting there thinking about trying to write a set list, and I'm like, no, just try to get the fun back, because I was so bummed out about not recording the thing. And
right.
And then just regrouping to try to be in quarantine again. And
Yeah.
not that I was ever out of quarantine, but I was thinking that we'd have our shit together. But now I'm just like, okay, now we're hunkered down. We're hunkering down again. And now it's winter, and there's not even my garden, though Andy put up the Christmas stuff. Man, he thinks pink flamingos are hilarious. And so we have a Christmas flamingo in the yard.
Sure.
And I genuinely think that those blow up Christmas things are hilarious. Those blow up Christmas, those holiday.
I hate them.
What?
I hate them, but go ahead.
Well, yeah, they're super tacky. But we had a cat for a long time that the head would move, and now we just got a Snoopy at an airplane, like a Christmas Snoopy.
If I was on a walk and I walked by your house, I would be so angry.
Would you be angry?
Yes.
Yes,
I walked. Yeah, I feel like it's just lights. It's like fucking light it up. Put a light everywhere you can.
We also have that projector spinny thing, and so we have a spinny thing that says "Happy Holidays" that projects onto the side of the wall. It's very nice. Oh, there'll be pictures on the Instagram.
Yeah.
Gotta cheer it up. Did you do any other sets besides the New York City one?
I think I had sets earlier, some flappers stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
Did you do the car thing?
What?
Did you do the drive-in?
No, I had Zoom stuff.
Okay.
I have so many voice memos. Like, before.
Oh, right.
I have like 1,600 unlistened to sets.
Oh my God.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that's silent.
First of all, they're taking up a jillion gigabytes on my iCloud. So I got to get them down, because I'm paying like $10 a month for terabytes or whatever. And it's shit that I don't know if I'm ever going to get around to, but I want to keep it just in case. I don't know this is the ultimate, unless I was dying, this is the ultimate just in case, because I'm on hiatus and I can't leave the house. Like if I can't sit down and listen to 100 a day, I'll never be able to. And this is, if I was dying, what would be the point? I'm going to fix a joke at that point.
Yeah, please fix a joke on your deathbed. That's what I want. That's what I want on my gravestone. She fixed jokes up till her last breath.
Finally got it. Then she died. And then I started listen. I don't know. It was a very difficult Thanksgiving without my mom. You know, that
Yeah.
whole, it's like, oh, all right, you know, that new stage of life. But
Yeah. So what did you do? Did you
oh,
guys, you zoomed with,
we had a big Zoom with a bunch of cousins, and it was like an hour or so, people just talking and interrupting and stuff like that. And then I got a little tiny turkey, and I put it in the oven, and I
Mhm.
cooked it for, I was a butterball. I followed the instructions. It turned out fine.
Success?
Thank you. And that was that. And then I started before my mom died. I was starting to listen to all the VHS tapes I had converted, like going back to '89, and just sort of logging them and trying to, I don't know, just trying to figure out, like, look, you know, I had some ideas about putting together old clips and stuff like that. So, but
Yeah.
I need to find things and pay attention to them and write them down, you know. So I
Yeah.
just started that back up again, and I at first I was like hard in on like 1990 or something. And then I'm like, I can't listen to these jokes anymore because I was, you know, sticking to a set list, and then if I'd have a new one, I'd shove it in, but it was like very repetitive, you know.
Yeah.
And I had no crowd skills, so I wasn't, there's not even any crowd work to listen to too much. And then,
To break it up.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You're just like, oh, I'm just running lines and I'm going to listen to me run lines again. Great.
yeah, basically. And
Yeah.
then jumped up to 2003, and it's like weekends at the comic strip, and it's just so different, you know, like, you know, that time in New York City, and the crowd is like bananas. They're great, but they're the comic strip crowd, so they can lose it. Like if you don't control them at all times,
Yeah.
they
They were wild.
go above your head, right? So you're constantly getting that energy going, but trying to get your stuff in the way you want to do it. And I had like about 7 minutes on rape. And I was doing it
Sure. Again.
on
Straight
Friday and Saturday night shows. And then I guess by the time I did my CD, I had cut like half of them or more than
Sure.
half. But I was like, that was a good joke. Why did I drop that? And now, but also it was of its time. And it's so weird how, like, in 2003 there's really no social media. I don't even know, there's not even MySpace at that point, right? In
Who,
2000,
my social media history is at a
I don't
loss.
think so. So you really were performing for that audience physically in front of you, and that's it. There wasn't like
Yeah.
a mind of, oh, this will go online, or
Oh
it
no. Yeah, that wasn't happening, and you were recording it, but you were the only one who was
right,
recording.
right. So you know, and it's just interesting to go, oh, that my whole world was me, and so and
Still
all,
happening.
yeah, but I'm also conscious of other people in a way I wasn't before, right?
Okay.
And
I was just riffing.
I,
That's
I
perfect.
know,
Okay.
I know, Jackie, you have a
Get
disease
through right.
called must interrupt a genuine thought.
Just trying to be part of the show. Just trying to be part of the show. You do whatever you need to do. Yeah, go ahead.
And so uh it was just like, oh, that's how he was back then. I didn't have a kid. I was climbing up the New York City ladder. I had just gotten hired at Tough Crowd, so I was like, you know, just trying to survive and not get fired and be the most badass female comic in New York City, and rape and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, I remember that, and it worked. You know, it worked for that time.
I
And
do like the claws. This is nice. The
right?
physical work.
fucking
Yeah.
claw.
That a gift.
Run over the Booker's girlfriends who are getting more spots than me. Claw. Yeah, got a claw, Jackie.
I was there. I was in New York. I'd go to New York once a year, from 90, I think. I would go, I would stay with my friend Jenny Bergman, and I would try to get as many sets as possible. And I think in 93 or 90, by then I was in at the comic strip. Was I? No, might have been
I don't
96.
remember seeing you, but I mean, but you know, maybe we didn't cross paths. Oh, I didn't move there till 99 or 98, I think, or 97.
So,
That's okay, never mind.
Oh, so 2003 is what you're talking about, actually, right?
Right. Mhm.
At the Strip. Oh, I was definitely there because that was, I think it was after '96 I started going every year to New York. I tried to go for 2 weeks every year to try to remind everybody that I existed. I still want, that's was still the plan until lately.
Yeah.
And then, but I remember just Lucian just sitting in that weird table, and then you'd go up, and it was, I'd worked my ass to get into the comic strip, and it was always a shit show. You know, it was always like you were conducting an orchestra where people weren't paying attention. You're like, violins, I'm here. More oboes, more oboes. And it was just like this kind of weird, you know, and I was like, why do I care this much? Except for that you're like, because you're in New York City working at a comedy club. That's why. It's going to be glamorous. You're going to be the one. And then I remember one year, it was the year I met Baron Vaughn, and we hung out, and it was like we were hanging out, and they were like, well, you guys want to go to another bar after the show? And I was like, can we do like a New York thing where we go to a diner? And we went to a diner, and it was super fun. I went with Baron Vaughn and a couple other comics, and we had coffee and eggs and pancakes, and it was delightful.
Oh man.
It felt like a movie.
Days.
It was awesome.
I do feel like my first year there was so hard, and I think I don't know if it's
Right.
different now, but at that time, New York was very it was about New York City all the time, and all the comics lived in New York, and you, as soon as they stepped on stage, you knew they were New Yorkers and they were part of you. Like that was the audience sort of vibe I got, right? And I felt like as soon as I stepped on stage, when I, like the first times I was there, they're like, oh, a tourist, right? Just like real New Yorkers are to real tourists. Like they could tell the comic. So you had to, I felt like I had to have the New York smell on me, and it took a while to get that. Even just the way
Yeah,
you
you
walk
went
on.
and rolled in garbage before you went up, because that's what you had to do. You were just like, you have to know that I'm as tough as you sons of bitches.
Yes, but
And
it's how you walk to the stage. You know, it's all that kind of stuff.
mhm.
And it just took a while to get all that. And then I had a couple jokes about, living in Harlem as a white woman. As you can imagine, Jackie, they were as original as you
It's
can imagine.
that gold. Wait, did you ever write a great joke about living in West Hollywood and there were gay people all around you? It's
No,
exactly that premise.
it is totally. But here's the thing: they bought me credibility, and then I could do what I wanted. Right now,
Yep.
I don't feel like I need that now. Maybe, but maybe New York has changed too. Maybe
No, I think that now it's just a part, like it's part of the pie. You know, now you can just tap into it and go, oh, please. And because you have, like, it's there. It's already, because you built that city on rock and roll. And so you can just pull that shit out whenever you need it. Hey, let's do a quick break if that's okay, and then come back. And then also, can we do comic of the week?
Yeah, let's do it.
Mhm.
Okay. I didn't write it down. God dang it.
Yes.
I'm the one who saw her at Hot Tub. She was great.
Yeah. No. Steph Tisdale.
Steph Tisdale, Hot Tub. She's from Australia. She's native to
Aboriginal.
yeah, and was really funny, it turns out, and
Yeah.
all of those things. Steph Tisdale, you guys find her. It's Steph Tisdale Comedy. Tisdale, by the way, is Tisdell comedy, and that's her Instagram. STEPH Tisdale with 2 L's comedy.
She doesn't have a Twitter.
It'll be in the notes.
I respect any comic who doesn't have a Twitter. That is, someone's doing something right.
Yeah,
she's only an Instagram.
she doubled down on Instagram, so good for her. Yeah, but she was super funny. And then here's a good Max Fun break,
Sure.
and we're back. So yeah, nostalgic about those New York things. And then I would do Gotham, and it was that long, and you'd go in the room.
The old Gotham, right? Not the new one.
I think is the new one the one he was so psyched about that restaurant that he opened. That's the new Gotham.
Yeah, it's the giant one. The Little Gotham was on 22nd Street. It was
And
right.
it was sweet.
Oh my God, it was so good.
It was the size of a closet.
It was
You
like
go
the
in.
Ice House of New York City. You could not kill. It was so
Yeah.
good.
It was almost impossible not to do really well in that room just
Yeah.
because of the vibe. The other one is a little more airport lounge.
Gigantic. I mean,
Yeah,
it's so much. It's they're like one street apart, but the physical dimensions of the club are so important.
Yeah.
You know, although you can cram more, I'm sure when it's packed, you know, I don't pack it out there. Not that I've been there in a long time. You know, it's great, but the Little Gotham was like when that thing was full, and it didn't take much to fill it.
Yep.
Oh my God. There were so many, they used to do so much bringer business, you know, where they get like, you know, a comic would have to bring 10 people to a show. They all have to, you know, spend, they're going to spend $50 each. That's the
Yeah.
bringer scam that
Yeah.
comic,
That we all live. It's the way.
yes.
Yeah.
But so Gotham is such a good room that I think a lot of people were given false confidence and embarked on comedy careers because their bringer shows were so good, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
We'll see when it all shakes out. I mean, the cool thing about how you know we're heading into this is going to be a real shitty couple months now, but we have an out. There are vaccines coming now. You know, they're going to be giving them to healthcare workers first, and then old people, and then
Good.
you know, then it stops spreading, and it starts getting smaller and smaller, and then it's, you know, almost gone, and we can all resume whatever lives we might have
right.
left.
The terrible life choices that we wish to make in rooms with other people.
How are you gonna? There's a couple comics where I'm just gonna, you know, I know how badly they've behaved. I don't mean the rapists. I just mean like, you know,
Right. I was like, wait, what are they doing?
doing indoor shows and all that. Just like, you know,
Yeah.
I liked when I didn't know much about my fellow comics. Those were the days. Like when you just showed up and you did your shows.
Yeah. It was before we did this podcast, because now everybody wants to tell us everything. They're like narcoleptics. They're just a bunch of, they're all suffering from narcolepsy. I'm using that word incorrectly on purpose.
You are, and I didn't want to call you on it. I was going to
I was doing it for comedic effect, it turns out. Allow me to write down that as a possible name of the show, comedic effect. Anyway, so I'm reading a book because I'm hosting a reading of Tess Rafferty's new book.
Oh, cool.
Under the Tuscan Gun. It's a mystery, and it's set in Italy, and it's called Under the fucking Tuscan Gun, which is an awesome name.
That's great.
If you want to write
it's fiction.
It's a novel.
Oh my God.
So I started it, and there are comics in it, stand-up comics, and I was so infuriated. But I'm like, but it is actually, it's really well written. It's, you know, here's the thing. It's like that other fiction that I read, the stand-up, is that comics are just really good writers. I mean, I think if we just say the words out loud, it turns out we can hear what will work and what will not. Mm-hmm. And so if you read it makes me think that if and when I were to write a novel, I could do it. I would just have to, it turns out, do it. But I'm psyched for Tess Rafferty. She has written a novel, and it's called Under the Tuscan Gun, and everyone should get it. And it's so funny because she mentions what the main character has done stand-up in a laundromat. And that used to be that gig for years, had that goof. It was a Lucy's laundromat, very glamorous laundromat. I don't know if you've been to the Lucy's, but it always has a Subway and a Starbucks. And then it has a bunch of washers and dryers, and then good TV. And if you could make anybody pay attention to any joke that you were talking about, was a success, because most of the people there, English not their first language, and they're trying to get their laundry done.
I done a different laundromat, but that was the original. Was that the first?
Yeah, that was the first. It was sort of the biggest one too, because they ended up bringing chairs and everything, and there'd be like 13 to 25 people there.
Amazing. That gig was infamous for us comics who didn't live in LA, of what LA comedy was like, and it kept a lot of people from moving to LA for like an extra 5 years.
Well, then it did its job, didn't it? Get out.
Yeah.
I'm also doing some weird panel for the Boston Comedy Fest. Remember, I thought it was the Women in Comedy Festival from Boston.
Mhm.
It isn't. It's the Boston Comedy Fest that Flappers has helped run this
Oh,
year.
I'm doing something with them too. Oh yeah, it's next weekend too. Ooh.
Yeah, mine's. I think I'm doing is Thursday.
Mhm.
Is doing a just doing some. I forget what the panel's about, and then I have a corporate this week for that my agent got me a Zoom corporate.
Mhm.
And that weird corporate contract that I sent you, that contract.
So okay, so
Right.
that's the one. That's the corporate you're doing.
No, I'm not doing that one. That guy. So this guy. So this.
That was unbelievable.
It was literally run. You know, it's the guy's a comic. I guess I don't know him, but he's a comic and he's
Always,
set up.
always a red flag. If
It's a freaking flag factory.
Yeah.
The guy was like on fire.
Yes.
I was like, so, you know, very nice comic told me that she recommended me to this guy, and he had a bunch of them, and they paid pretty good, and you only had to do 5 or 10 minute sets, and I was like, okay, all right. And then we talked on the phone, and the way he put the gigs, he said, it'll be 5 or 10 minute sets, and you'll make between $2,000 and $200.
He started with 2000 and didn't go up. He went
Exactly. He
Wow.
started from the wrong end.
Be aware. You are about to get pickpocketed.
Right. You were about to get taken for a fucking buggy ride
Right.
by some banana head. And so I was like, why did you put it like that? And so we started out on the wrong, like, you know, this is like when I first started doing the road and you talk to the booker who had a pile of weirdo one-nighters.
Mhm.
And if it sounded a little dodgy, you know, when the booker would be like, so it's a 2.5 hour drive. It's easy drive. It's right there. Everyone's going to be there. It was always 4 hours.
Yeah, and it's always like you're going to be there anyway. The gig doesn't start till Wednesday. This is a Tuesday. You know. Yeah.
Like you're lying. It's just you're like and lying for no reason. I want to do your shitty weird gigs. And then I got the contract and it was 6 pages
For this corporate, yeah.
for this corporate that, by the way, $2,000 to $200 for 5 to 10 minutes. He offered me $150 for the first one.
God damn.
That wasn't in his range. I don't understand that.
And I thought about asking him about it, and I was like, it must be like the first gig thing, because that's always the other thing that Booker always says. This is just the first one. First one's going to be a little light, and then afterwards you're just going to be racking in a lot of cash.
Why? It's the first one he hired you for. It's not your first time doing stand-up. Why does he get to make more money the first time he hires you, and then less money the rest of the times?
Because he's a weird guy who doesn't work from a place of abundance, or to put it in a more simple way,
Totally working from a place of abundance. His.
Right. Well, it's one of these, it's like this phony one-nighter attitude. It's the worst phony one-nighter attitude. I feel like Catcher in the Rye guy. He's a phony, man. He's just a phony. It's a nicer way of what I could put. I really want to put it more harshly, but maybe he listens to the show. But I guess I'm not working for him, because not only when I questioned the 6-pager, he sends me this thing back saying, well, just tell me the words that you want to use. And I'm like, dude, I didn't get my law degree. And if I have to, I didn't say this, but I was like, if I have to hire a lawyer, it's going to cost me $500 to $2,000. Why don't you keep me in mind when you have a gig for me that'll pay the lawyer?
Any gig any contract that has the word in perpetuity or perpetuity and universe in the contract, you need to be making at least $10,000.
I was so mad that it had that. I was like, you're killing me, and it's not enough money. And then so I brought it to one of the threads that we're in, and we find out that some people are making okay money at it, and got it from a male comic who is making double what our female comic friend is.
Right.
And I just want to go, why is like the one-nighter, the fluidity of the one-nighter is one of my least favorite things. It should not be.
Oh, what it pays?
Yeah. It should be the same whether you are a boy person, a girl person, or a they them person. It should just be, you've hired a comic. Fucking pay the comic unless they're famous, unless there's credits.
Right. I mean, credits I can see, but the two people that you're talking about in the thread, they aren't so different credit wise.
No, and one of them, and the guy is old credits.
Yeah.
They're okay credits, but they're old.
Right.
He was a big deal 10 years ago. And he's a great comic. He's a good comic. Everybody's on board. And now Kyle will want to know who we're talking about.
Yeah.
So
I was also just trying to figure out an evening at the Improv joke for old credits.
Hey, that's a good credit, Kyle. Asshole, new comics.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's exactly what I thought it would be.
yeah, and that's fine. And a good comic and deserves good money. But so does our friend who has a newer big credit.
Very big.
Yeah. And our other friend who has same steady credits as forever and also has newer credits. And I'm just saying that all of the people at that level are at that level.
Right.
And it isn't the first time any of them have done stand-up. So they all deserve at least $200.
Right.
So... But I'm doing a corporate that my agent booked where I'm making good money. Actual
Can you type?
real, just normal. I'm doing a half an hour for insurance people.
And do you have to, hey, that's fine.
Yeah.
And that's
Do you
fair.
have to do crowd work or you just do your act?
I think that they were hoping I did something, but then they didn't send me anybody's, like, I don't know Jim from accounting. Like, they haven't sent me anyone's name to, but I can do my non-patented Zoom banter. My Zoom banter is adorable.
Sure.
It remains what it is. And, sometimes I just like to yell out somebody's, because everybody's name is there. And you're like, well, hello, Jeff Whiteley. What that was somebody's name. His last name was Whiteley. I can't remember if it was his first name, but I name people and other, like today's, we hang out for like 10 minutes after the Sunday services shows, and I get to see people's pets, and I forgot that one of this woman who comes every week, whose name doesn't need to be said, though I'm sure she wouldn't care. She has ferrets. And so she brought 3 ferrets into the thing, and I was like, holy shit, ferrets. And she was handling them very loosey-goosey, and yeah. Anyway, let's do second spot.
Yeah. Okay, that was our second spot.
Yeah.
I had a terrible oven situation yesterday.
No.
Oh, I saw that.
So I had a silicone baking sheet. Now, what's that say to you? You can bake on it, right?
Wait, it was silicone?
I don't know.
thought
It was plastic.
No, it was plastic.
It was
silicone.
plastic.
Right.
Well,
Live and learn.
Right. So I made some cookies. Inspired by Green Chef, because I made a couple of meals this week. I made some cookies. And I put some of them on this red sheet.
Where'd you get the red sheet?
It came with the oven many years ago. I don't know. I don't remember buying it, but that's like a lot of things in my kitchen. I don't know how they got there, and I don't know what they're for.
Right. So, but it looked like a silicone cookie sheet.
Yes.
Okay.
And it was at 375 degrees. That's not super hot. And then
if it's not silicone,
it doesn't smell good. And I pull open the oven, and the whole sheet is melted, and it's red, so it just looks like cinema blood all over the oven. And then that was just a night of, my whole night was ruined because the house smelled horrible. There's like plastics in the air. I have all the purifiers. I brought them all in. And I put them on blast, and then I had to self-clean the oven, which I've never done before, and it was a lot.
I'm so sorry. It looked grim. There was a picture on Twitter, and I was like, Did she just like, because maybe something was delivered, like you were given cookies and it came on that sheet, and then it's the same size as a cookie sheet, and it looked like silicone, but it wasn't. And I put I made chicken stock, and I took some of the hot chicken stock and I put it in an old cashew nut, and it dissolved the packaging, and just chicken broth everywhere.
Immediately?
And
Or
what?
it dissolved it immediately?
Oh yeah, it just melted the fuck out of that. I mean, because the thing is you need to have it. You make chicken stock, it cools a little bit, but it's still pretty warm, and then you pour it into various Tupperwares, like what you've ordered Chinese soup in. That it's thick enough. But I thought this was a good size, but it just held cashews, and it turns out it is not thick enough plastic, and it literally dissolved, and I lost like, quite honestly, 2 pints of chicken broth, which was my greatest sadness. And then of course I had to clean up the entire kitchen, which was also a devastation.
Pretty
Yeah.
cool though.
It went on your cool floor.
On my cool floor, but my cool floor was psyched to get any sort of cleanliness at all. They're like, oh good, why don't you clean that floor? So we don't live in squalor, but sometimes I think we live in squalor. I'm like, I need to clean these things.
I am realizing how much cleaning my mom did.
Yeah.
It's
How much cleaning did your mom do?
the bathroom constantly.
Okay.
And
That was a gift.
Noticing things, I'm like, I should scrub that. Yeah, it's not what I like to do.
Right. Yep. So Andy, so on my vision board, I'm gonna tell you a thing. Where are we at?
We are at 46.
Okay, plenty of time. So Andy said to me last week, he said, because do you want a dog? And I said, since I was 4. And so we're gonna get a dog.
Whoa! How are you gonna get one?
At the pound. We're just gonna go to the pound, and we're not gonna call it a rescue. I think we're just gonna call it a pound dog. Though we might call it a rescue. Who knows? I may become a caricature of my own act, and then start buying dialysis for my dog.
Now that my dog is older, I can call her a rescue. She looks like she was rescuable. Just to get people off my ass.
Tom Clark has that t-shirt that he sells. I think it says "My wife rescued me," or "Who rescued you," or it's some sort of "Oh, I'm a rescue." That's it. Yeah, he does a joke about his wife rescuing. And but I was crying when Andy said that we were going to get a dog, because he's always had dogs.
Yeah.
And he is. This is the year for 8 months ago would have been when we should have got a dog, but I'm going to be home for another 6 months. And so Andy goes, "You didn't even cry when I asked you to marry me." And I said, "Not in front of you." And but I cried for the same reason, which is I have this the same insecurity that everyone has, that I'm gonna break it, I'm gonna fuck it up somehow. And so I'm very nervous about because I don't want to, because Andy, it shouldn't be his burden. I want the dog, right? So I should be the one to take care of the dog. And but I hope I don't let him down or the dog down.
You'll be fine.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a responsible adult. It'll be fine. I'll get a dog.
Did you watch Chappelle's Unforgiven?
Not on a dare. No. So I'm good. I see so much. It
wasn't really stand up though. It was Tim talking. I'm pro anyone slagging Comedy Central, so I'm already on board when I heard the premise.
Wait, I think I saw the Instagram clip.
Yeah. So I shouldn't be shocked. He's not getting paid for any of the Chappelle shows that are airing on streaming media, right?
Oh, it was a buyout.
It was one
complete
shitty
buyout.
deal. What? Pardon?
It must have been a buyout. He doesn't get any
Yeah.
residuals. or
Oh
anything?
yeah, especially back then, because that was right around the time Tough Crowd was on the air, and it wasn't even Writers Guild. It wasn't. It was all Viacom, independent contractor, all this kind of shit. It was just
Yeah.
them doing as they do, and
How
so
many seasons of Chappelle's show? What were there?
I think there were 2.
3.5 or 3, I think.
Oh, was it 3? Which one did he
The
leave on?
last season's, I believe, the 3rd season.
Okay, yeah. So, it's funny because he's incredibly wealthy now, but he's still pissed. Like he
Sure.
never stopped feeling ripped off when
Right.
they paid for something that was great, and it was.
I never
a
saw
lot
the
of different takes about because of kind of what the comic he is now and the things he complains about now, but I don't know.
Well, you found it fascinating.
I did. I mean, like you never stop being resentful of that shit.
Right. One time I sold all my baseball cards, and the guy took me for a buggy ride because I had a rookie card of Cal Ripken, and he gave me $50 for all of the cards. I'm still mad, turns out, even though I don't care. I shouldn't care, and it's not something I wrote or created or was my baby, But I never saw the Chappelle Show. I've seen clips because I'm wrong about sketch comedy. I mean, sketch comedy done right is amazing.
It is.
And I can't, but I never watched Bob and Dave, Odenkirk and David Cross.
I watched it later. I didn't watch it when it aired. But again, in our defense, we were out every night, and unless you had you paid for cable and had a VCR, you didn't watch shit. I didn't watch Friends ever.
I watched it when they were showing it at 3:00 in the afternoon. When I was on the road, there was like the reruns. I was like,
I was
I'll
watching
watch
Oprah
this.
at that point.
Oh,
Oprah
nice.
was at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, sort of.
That's true. That's right. It was it 2 hours, Oprah?
No, it was an hour. It's either 3 or 4, depending on the market. But
Always felt like 2 hours. It was
it's how much you learned.
It was me. It was just such a learning experience. Oh my God, stick a pen in my eye. It wasn't for me, but I know that people loved it. But I wish, I know that like when I moved here to Los Angeles and people were like, you don't watch Odenkirk, the Bob and Dave, and I was like, well, if they put me on it, like the way that they did with Paul F. Tompkins and Karen Kilgariff, if I got to work on it, I completely would have watched it and been super supportive of it.
Would you have?
But what would I have?
Would you have watched it?
You know what? I've never seen my episode of Lady Dynamite.
Oh my God.
Somebody sent me a still. I've seen that.
I will watch The Lord of the Rings if they put me in it. If Peter Jackson were to put me in it, I would watch it. But
Remember Sue Murphy? I remember I hung out with Sue Murphy for about a year one time, and
she was living down in LA.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it was super fun.
Did
But
she live in a house in San Francisco?
she sold that house.
She did.
Yeah, and she sold it, I thought, in the late 90s or early 2000s.
Oh no.
Anyway, she had such a great bit about it that I remember Laura Keitlinger losing her shit because she thought it was true. And it was about having feral cats pooping all over her yard in the Bay Area, wherever her house was.
Yeah.
And how she went to the pound or the dog catcher or somebody and said, hey, I got to get rid of these cats. They're shitting all over my yard. And they were like Fix Nation. They were like, here's the thing. If you catch those cats, bring them to us. We'll give you $5 a cat. We'll fix the cat. And then you'll release them back on your land. And she was like, how about this? I catch the cats. I give you $5 a cat and you sew up their buttholes. And Laura Keitlinger was like, that is the meanest thing. And Steve Murphy was like, not true. None of it true. Not happening in real life. What's happening to me? But she, there was something. Oh, that she had never watched her own half-hour special on Comedy Central. She couldn't do it. She couldn't watch her own stand-up on television.
You know
And I
what?
was
The
like,
people that can watch themselves do have better careers. I'm not saying they're better comics, but they have better careers. That's just a little note to you youngsters out there.
youngsters.
You can't stand to watch yourself for some reason. Maybe you can't stand to pitch yourself. Maybe you can't stand other things that you need to be doing to put yourself out front. And
And to learn from it.
yeah, to learn from it. That too. Yeah, I guess so. But it's more of a thing of. I think it's like a personality thing. If you're really good at watching yourself, you're really good at pitching yourself and believing in yourself and putting your name on things. And the people that aren't, I mean, you're probably a better comic, but it's not gonna, if you can change your personality now, hurry. While everything's down, change your personality immediately.
Hilarious.
I will say I watched part of Sue's. I remember watching it and going, this does not represent her because she, and not that any Comedy Central set represents anyone great, but or any TV set. It's just too distant. But the feeling of watching her murder at the punchline, you can't beat it. In the city she lived in was comedically raised in, and so doing local stuff, and then her other bits that were, again, like I've said it before, she had some Star Trek bit that was like 15 minutes long, and no one did long chunks on things, and hardly any women did.
She
Most
had
of
a
the women were just
15-minute
fighting
Star
for their
Trek chunk?
existence. Yes,
That's
Jackie.
awesome.
Oh, I think it's on her special too.
Okay.
She very as soon as she was part of a team who I forget who she was with. She was with an improv guy.
Weird. Really? Team comedy?
What?
Two people talking like Sklar Brothers or Andy Kindler when he used to have
Great Proops and Michael McShane were one group, and Sue Murphy and I forget.
I remember this was a San Francisco thing.
Yeah,
very, very popular to have some sort of weird duos.
Well, I think it was just two, but that is pretty popular for duos.
It feels like a lot.
It does feel like a lot. But she got a ton of stage time by being in a duo. So when she broke off on her own, she kind of got to skip that awkward decade that many of us have, where you're just like learning to look people in the eye in the audience without shitting yourself. And so when she broke off and was her own thing, she was so strong, so fast. And in fact, she was able to buy a house in San Francisco,
Her stage presence was amazing. Just this laid back, just lobbing like grenades at the audience.
So cool.
It was a delight to watch her work.
Not desperate, not eager,
No, which is why she got to do the early Largo stuff, and because that's where I worked with her at Acme. I featured for her. No, I think I emceed. This was early 90s. And everybody at Acme, even if they were featuring you, you would also do MC slots so that you could work at home.
Right.
And even when you were headlining and still living in Minneapolis, you would still do feature spots and MC spots. And it was just, I remember, this is tangential, but the first time I headlined Knuckleheads at the Mall of America, Rich Miller booking it, he had Isaac Whitty MC and Chad Daniels feature.
Oh my God.
And I was like, hey, fucking monsters. What? And so when I got on stage, I looked at the audience and I was like, we're just going to try to keep it here, people. There's not going to be a lot of this.
What?
He
stabbed you in the back with that lineup. You know that. That was
completely. It was literally sabotage. But I loved it. Because who doesn't? I want to follow murderers.
It's sabotage because you're following great joke writers.
Yeah.
It's what's worse is one time I had to follow, might have been at Acme, a magician whose closer, like I could never hear the closer because I was in the back. But I was like, what's happening out there? And once I ran and watched, and he was pulling cards out of his ass. And I'm like, what the fuck am I following? Are you serious? I'm going up after cards out of a guy's ass?
Derek Hughes.
Yes!
That's who you're following. And Derek Hughes. That's because he's a Minneapolis comic. And he's kind of a famous, he's a famous magician now. but he also just does straight stand up without any magic at all because he's a really good joke writer. But that fucking card up is, I remember when first time I saw that, I went up to him and I was like, hey, Derek, does that mean that you have cards up your ass for your entire set? And he's like, stop talking to me. And but
I never reveals his ass tricks.
And I have to tell you that up close magic makes me so happy because I'm just like, fucking find the thing from my nose again. Hide the ear thing. Where is it? And he's just like, that's because you're watching this, Jackie. You're not watching this. This one's doing everything. You're watching me do this, and then all of a sudden, money. And
all I know is I'm backstage, I'm next, and people are screaming, and I can't hear the joke. And then I'm like, oh, there wasn't one. That's why.
Oh, but it was magic. It was sort of like when Doug Stanhope closed his set by jerking off using the beer bottle. Remember that closer that Stanhope had during the 90s?
Yes.
No one could follow it. He did this porn story, and then he had a beer bottle, and then he closed by spraying the beer all over his face.
He did that as a feature?
Yes.
Oh my God.
And
what an asshole.
And it essentially moved him to headliner in like 3 months because no one could fucking follow it.
Of course. Oh my God, that's great. We're done, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.